Okay, so it looks like Crystal Palace have finally got their manager. Patrick Vieira, former Arsenal midfielder, looks set to take the job in London, and yeah, it kind of feels more realistic. Well, not realistic, but Palace have kind of gone through a few managers. Obviously, it looked like Nuno was going to get the job a few weeks ago. Then only a few days ago, really, Lucien Favre, and I thought both of those would have been really good appointments. And Palace fans, from what I saw, was pretty happy. Um, and I kind of thought they were both quite punchy, to be honest. Patrick Vieira feels kind of a bit more realistic for Palace's level. I don't mean that in an insulting way, by the way, but I'll speak about this later. But the Palace job is huge. There's so much jeopardy in this job. If someone comes into Crystal Palace next season and keeps them up and finishes solid mid-table, I'll be very impressed with them. And because anyway, I'll talk about that later. But Patrick Vieira is the man that's got the job. And his managerial career has been pretty interesting. Obviously, no one doubts his ability as a player or as just a human being. I think his punditry's been pretty good at the Euros. Obviously, he can speak English. But was it New York? Obviously, that's one of Man City's kind of feeder clubs in the City group, which kind of gives me some positivity about him. And he got the Nice job. Now, Nice are a pretty established mid-table Liga club. It's interesting because I don't think he's done a bad job at Nice, but I don't feel like they've progressed or gone backwards. It feels like very much what Roy Hodgson's done at Palace, weirdly. This was his first season. He finished 7th, got 15 wins, 56 points as well, which is a pretty good return, but he did overperform expected points quite a bit. Expected points actually had them being the 13th best side in the Premier League, which, that can mean a lot of things. That doesn't mean he's a terrible manager. Loads of good managers overperform XG all the time, i.e. Lucien Favre before he went to Dortmund. There's no shame in that, but it's something to point out. That could mean a lot of things. It could mean he's a really good manager at setting up a good system, or it can mean some individual players just had standout seasons. Obviously, second season was cut off by COVID, so there wasn't as many games, but they finished 6th. Got him into the Europa League spot, which is a pretty good achievement. Finished on 41 points. Again, overperformed expected points a little bit. I think expected points would have had them 11th. So again, overperforming XG a little, or expected points a little bit, but nothing wrong with that. Got a pretty middling team with not an incredible amount of squad talent. He lost Alan Saint-Maximin that year as well, and I believe that was actually no, but he lost Saint-Maximin that year, and that's a good achievement. And then obviously lost his job on the 4th of December this season. But when he left the job at Nice, they were 11th. But that was kind of the first time he was really performing to expected points. So it's weird. It kind of felt to me what that suggests is kind of luck caught up with him a bit, or it kind of just got a bit stale. But to me, this doesn't. If you're a Palace fan, listen to this. I'm not saying this means he's a bad manager. To me, this just suggests he just kind of seems like an okay manager, or at least at Nice anyway. And coming into the Premier League with a job like Crystal Palace seems hard. I was looking at what kind of his squads that he's used over the past few years, and he's very much switched between a 4-3-3 or a 5-2-3. I assume he'll use this 5 at the back in the Prem. It would make more sense given Palace's squad. If Palace mainly played a 4-4-2 last season, pretty functional. I can't see Vieira doing that, and I can't really see him moving to a 4-3-3 either. I know Palace did that a few times last season, and Jeffrey Schlupp would kind of play as the left central midfielder or whatever, but I can't really see that happening. I could very much see this 5 at the back, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way, especially when you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of contract players, which I don't think that, by the way, I don't think many of these players are very good. I think Palace will be fine. Plus, their wage bill's so high and it's so old that this isn't a bad thing for Crystal Palace, like some people are making out. It's just assuming Steve Parish does the right job and recruits properly. But it does feel like a bit of a risk. I don't know if Patrick Vieira will have a hand in recruitment. I kind of hope he wouldn't. But look, Palace were awful last year. They were genuinely atrocious. If you look at expected points, they should have got relegated. They were atrocious, and this is a huge job for Patrick Vieira, and obviously for Crystal Palace as well. And it's a big risk. His CV's so limited. Okay job in MLS and kind of just an all right job at Nice. And I suppose, look, the one thing about him, he speaks English, he knows the Premier League, and assuming, to me, look, obviously appointing a manager is really important, but it also feels like if you're a Palace fan, it's kind of more on recruitment. You know, if you give Patrick Vieira decent players, he'll probably keep you up. If you don't give him good players, he'll probably get you relegated. Because from everything in his managerial career suggests he's just an all right manager. Which, so yeah, it kind of just feels like it's on Steve Parish now to get this right at Crystal Palace. And this squad, it kind of feels like it's aging out. It's young. Obviously, Tarek Mitchell's amazing. Abirazi's amazing. Benteke had a really good year, and Zaha's always consistent. But you know, central defence, fullback, central midfield, it just feels like there's a lot of aging positions on quite high wages. And this is a make or break season for Palace. This is either a season where they get in a good manager and they kind of turn over that squad and establish themselves for the next 3 years, or they get relegated. And it feels like Palace haven't really done anything over the past few years. And if you're a Palace fan, I'm sure you're willing to take that risk on Vieira. But it is a big risk. And I hope it works out well for Vieira. He seems like a nice bloke. And I like Crystal Palace. But it is a risk, man. But yeah, let me know your thought in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. And yeah, peace.